Chapter 1. The Last Daughter of Eryna. The station pulsed like a living organism, its arteries of light stretching across kilometers of alloy and glass. Lysra drifted to the promenade with her head lowered, the glow of neon signs flickering across the silver markings of her skin. Alien scents hung heavy in the air. Burnt spice from the Orth food stalls, the sharp tang of ionized metal from repair bays, and the faint sweetness of floral extracts sold in crystal vials. For most, this place was a wonder. For her, it was exile. Her people had cast her out. The Eryna, tall and porcelain-skinned, prized fertility above all else. Children were legacy, proof that one's line had not failed. And Lysra, her womb declared barren before her second maturity, was nothing. She still heard her mother's voice, cold and cutting. "You are a hollow vessel. No purpose remains." She wrapped her arms around herself as she walked, as if shielding from an invisible chill. Every step seemed to echo the weight of being nameless. The crystalline halls of Eryna Prime were gone. In their place, metallic corridors rattled with the constant hum of the station's gravity stabilizers. Crowds pressed past her, merchants hawking bioluminescent fruit, traders barking in tongues that rattled like grinding stone, a trio of humans laughing too loudly, their voices raw compared to the smooth cadences of other species. Lysra paused. Humans! The word carried whispers in every corner of the galaxy. Strange newcomers, survivors of a once-doomed Earth, a species whose tenacity unsettled even the proudest empires. They did not measure worth by birth or legacy, but by persistence, by effort. It was said they took broken things and made them whole. Her eyes followed them. The humans with their uneven features, their scars worn without shame. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with grease-stained hands, leaned against the bulkhead and bit into a ration bar as though it were a feast. His laughter shook his chest, unrefined but alive. He noticed her staring, and, instead of turning away as any Eryna would, he raised a hand in greeting. Lysra flinched and looked down. No one greeted the infertile. No one saw her. Her people had erased her name from the genealogical records. She was a ghost, a living silence. And yet here, in the shadow of alien banners and neon lights, a stranger's gesture had struck her deeper than years of dismissal. The promenade's floor vibrated suddenly as a freighter disengaged from its dock, the low thrum of engines reverberating in her chest. Lysra closed her eyes, feeling the sound like a heartbeat. For the first time since her exile, she wondered, perhaps the universe had not truly closed its doors. Perhaps there was another path, one her ancestors had never imagined. She looked once more toward the laughing human, curiosity burning beneath her shame. Chapter 2. The Human with Calloused Hands. The docking bay was a cathedral of steel and shadows. Towering ships rested in their berths like slumbering beasts, their hulls scarred with old battles and long voyages. The air smelled of coolant, ozone, and the faint grease of human machinery, a raw, unpolished scent that clung to the metal. Lysra lingered at the threshold, uncertain. The humans were clustered near one vessel, sleek but battered, its paint faded and hull patched with uneven plating. Not beautiful by Eryna standards. Her people shaped their starships from crystalline lattices, flawless and symmetrical, as if sculpted from starlight itself. This human craft looked lived in, imperfect, scarred, and yet it still flew. She found herself watching a man from the promenade, the one who had raised his hand. He crouched near an open panel, tools spread out like weapons of war. Sparks spat from a conduit, illuminating his face, lines of weariness, but eyes sharp with focus. Lysra hesitated, then stepped closer, her bare feet whispering against the metal floor. "Your vessel hums unevenly," she said softly, her voice carrying the melodic lilt of her people. The man startled, then turned. For a moment, His gaze held hers, steady, unashamed. Most aliens recoil from Eryna beauty, wary of their cold perfection. He only squinted, wiped his brow with the back of a grease-stained hand, and gave a crooked grin. Yeah, well, she's held together by stubbornness and tape, but she flies. That's what matters. Lysra tilted her head. Stubbornness? Machines do not respond to emotion. Maybe not, he chuckled, sliding a tool into the panel with a deft twist. But humans do. And sometimes we pour enough of ourselves into a thing that it starts to believe us. He leaned back, stretching sore shoulders. Name's Marcus Hale. Captain, pilot, part-time mechanic. Full-time idiot, according to my crew. His hand extended toward her, palm open. Lysra blinked. Among the Eryna. Touch was sacred, reserved only for kin or lovers. To offer a hand so casually felt like blasphemy. Yet there was no mockery in his eyes, only expectation. Slowly, she placed her slender fingers in his. His skin was rough, calloused, so different from the glass-smooth hands of her people, and warm. "I am Lysra," she whispered, as though the name might vanish if spoken too loudly. "Lysra," he repeated, as if testing its weight. "Pretty name. You hungry? You look like you haven't eaten a proper meal in a week." She stiffened, pride worn with truth. Her credits had dwindled. Alien food often made her ill. "Still," she admitted softly, "I have gone without." Marcus didn't ask permission. He rummaged through a satchel and handed her a sealed packet. Steam rose as it opened. Thick broth, fragrant with spices unfamiliar yet comforting. "Soup," he said simply. "Human recipe. Nothing fancy." Lysra stared at it, trembling. Among the Eryna, food was a communal ritual, denied to outcasts. To be offered it freely by a stranger, her chest ached. She lifted it carefully, sipping. The warmth spread down her throat, chasing away a cold she hadn't realized had settled in her bones. Tears pricked her eyes. She quickly turned her face, ashamed of the display. Marcus noticed but said nothing. Instead, he leaned back against the hull, watching the distant stars beyond the bay doors. "Funny thing," he murmured. "Back home, we say family isn't just who you're born to. It's who shares your table, your fight, your journey." He glanced at her again, softer now. "You don't look like you've had much of that lately." Lysra could not answer. Her voice was locked in her throat. But her silence was no longer the silence of exile. It was the silence of something new, an opening she had not dared to hope for. The ship's engines rumbled faintly as if echoing Marcus's words. For the first time since her banishment, Lysra felt not hollow, but seen. Chapter 3. A Bargain in the Market of Stars. The bazaar was a galaxy condensed into a single labyrinth of light. Stalls curved under canopies of shimmering hollow silk. Merchants barked in tongues that snapped like breaking glass or hummed like molten metal, and the air pulsed with 100 conflicting scents. Sweet fermentation from Zarian fruit wines, acrid tang of recycled coolant, the sharp musk of some reptilian trader's scales. Lysra walked at Marcus's side, her silver eyes wide despite herself. She had visited markets before, of course, but Eryna commerce was precise, orderly, wrapped in ritual. Here, chaos thrived. Species of every form haggled, gestured, and laughed. Deals were sealed not with formal contract, but with banter and the slap of the hand. Marcus moved through it all as though born for this. His voice cut above the din, firm but warm. When a vendor tried to triple the price of fuel cells, he leaned in with a grin. "Friend, you could sell these for that much only if the cells sang lullabies while they charged. 2 units, fair trade. Take it or I walk." The alien's frilled crest flared in irritation. Lysra tensed, expecting violence. Among the Eryna, to challenge a price was to insult honor. Yet the human didn't bow or retreat. He stood, grinning, arms crossed. And, astonishingly, the merchant caved, clicking his mandibles in reluctant agreement. "You mocked him," Lysera whispered as they walked away, fuel cells in hand. "And he respected you?" Marcus shrugged. "Respect a funny thing. Some people want formality. Others just want to know you're not afraid of them. Humans, well, we bluff until the bluff becomes real." She studied him sidelong, unsettled but fascinated. Her people would call such defiance reckless. And yet it worked. They turned a corner into a quieter alley where the neon overhead flickered. A frail alien woman, short, scaled, her arms laden with woven baskets, stumbled as a pair of armored mercenaries blocked her path. One seized her wrist. "Payments due. Old one. You sell in our territory." Lysera's breath caught. She knew these types. Syndicate thugs. Preying on the vulnerable. Her instinct screamed to look away, to avoid involvement. That was the Eryna way. But Marcus was already moving. "Hey!" he called, voice like gravel. "Didn't your mothers teach you manners?" The mercenary sneered, releasing the old woman only to step toward him. "Back off, human." Marcus didn't. Instead, he stepped closer, posture loose but eyes sharp. "How about you let her go, and we pretend you didn't just threaten a grandmother in broad daylight?" Lysera's pulse pounded. The thug shifted, sizing him up. He was one man, unarmed, surely doomed. She forced herself forward, drawing on knowledge her people once prized her for, etiquette and law. Her voice rose, clear and commanding. "Station Edict 12 forbids coercion within sanctioned trade districts. I have already tagged your faces to the enforcement network. If you wish to avoid a bounty on your heads, you will depart now." The mercenaries froze. Bluff or not, they couldn't know. They exchanged glances, spat curses, and melted back into crowd. Marcus whistled low. "Nicely done. You've got more bite than you look." Lysera trembled, not from fear, but from exhilaration. She had spoken, and the universe had shifted, not as a daughter of Eryna, but as herself. The old vendor clutched her arm, eyes wet. "Blessings on you both," she rasped. "Few here would stand for me." Marcus waved it off, but Lysera held the woman's hand a moment longer, warmth spreading through her chest. Perhaps this was purpose. Not lineage, not legacy, but choice. As they walked on, Marcus nudged her gently. "See? You and me, we make a good team." Lysera allowed herself the faintest smile, the neon light catching like fire in her silver eyes. Chapter 4, Ashes of Her People. The Starship's bridge was quiet, save for the low thrum of its engines and the faint pulse of artificial gravity beneath the deck. Lysera stood near the viewport, the vast sprawl of the station visible beyond. Neon trade lanes weaving to the black, cargo haulers gliding like slow leviathans, patrol craft darting like silver fish between docking arms. It should have been beautiful. Instead, her hands shook as she gripped the datapad Marcus had given her. The message glowed across its surface in the cold, perfect script of her people. Lysera, once of House Eryna, is stricken from all genealogical archives. She is without name, without place. For purposes of inheritance, lineage, and remembrance, she does not exist. Her breath hitched. The words blurred as her vision swam. Her knees weakened until she collapsed into the nearest chair. Not exile, erasure. She was no longer even a shadow in her people's history. She was as scattered in the void. Marcus leaned against a railing nearby, arms crossed, studying her. He hadn't read the message, but the tremor in her hands told him enough. "Bad news?" he asked softly. Her throat worked, but no sound came. Finally, she whispered, "I am gone." Marcus frowned. "Pretty sure you're still breathing." She looked up sharply, anger and grief twisting her face. "You don't understand. Among the Eryna, records are life. Without them, no one will speak my name again. No song, no ceremony, no remembrance. I might as well be dust cast into a star." Her voice cracked, the words spilling faster. "Even death would be preferable. At least the dead are honored." Silence hung between them, broken only by the faint beep of consoles and the murmur of distant comm traffic. Marcus pushed away from the railing. Crouching in front of her, his callous hand brushed the datapad aside. "Listen," he said, voice steady. "Back on Earth, we got a saying. The past is a lesson, not a prison. We've buried cities under ash. Oceans swallowed half our coasts. Wars wiped families clean from records. If being forgotten meant the end, humanity wouldn't be here." She shook her head. "But without lineage, I have no worth. No reason to." "No," he cut in, his voice sharp enough to silence her. "Your worth isn't decided by some council scratching names off a list. It's decided by what you do now, by what you fight for." Lysra's gaze dropped to the deck. Her chest heaved with uneven breaths. She wanted to reject his words, to cling to the weight of her people's judgment. And yet, the conviction in his voice rang truer than the cold decree glowing on the datapad. "You humans," she murmured, her silver eyes shimmering. "You speak as though loss is fuel, as though even broken things can rise again." Marcus's lips curved into a crooked grin. "That's the trick. We're too stubborn to stay broken." Something shifted inside her then, fragile but undeniable, a spark buried beneath layers of grief. She still ached, but for the first time, she wondered if perhaps her existence could be more than what the Eryna had stripped away. The ship hummed around them, its heartbeat steady. Lysra wiped her tears with trembling fingers, staring at Marcus with something like awe. Humanity's strength wasn't in perfection, but in defiance of despair. And for the first time, she wanted to believe she could learn that stubbornness too. Chapter 5, Fire in the Void. The first explosion rattled the station like a giant's fist. Sirens wailed, red strobes flooding the metallic corridors. Lysra clutched the railing as the deck beneath her shuddered. The distant roar of ruptured bulkheads carrying through the structure like thunder underwater. Marcus burst onto bridge, voice hard. "Raiders. They've cut through the outer rings, half the defense grid's already down." Through the viewport, Lysra saw them, a swarm of ships, sharp and jagged, black as oil. Plasma lances streaked through the void, tearing at the station's flanks. Shards of metal spun off into the black, glowing with residual heat. Civilian freighters scattered like frightened prey. Her chest tightened. Every instinct screamed to flee, to hide. That was what the Eryna taught. Survival through silence, through endurance. Yet Marcus was already strapping on his sidearm, barking orders to his crew as if the odds meant nothing. "We'll hold the docks as long as we can. Lysra, stay behind us." She stiffened, heat flaring in her chest. Stay behind. Worthless. Expendable. The same words, spoken in different forms, her whole life. No, not again. The corridor outside shook as raiders breached. Panels blew apart, spilling sparks and smoke. Marcus ducked behind cover, firing with short, controlled bursts. His crew, 2 humans and a stout, 4-armed alien mechanic, fought beside him, making every shot count. Improvised barricades of crates and scrap sealed the bottleneck. But the raiders kept coming. Armored, masked, brutal. Lysra's pulse thundered in her ears. Civilians screamed behind her as they huddled in the maintenance passage. The scent of scorched metal filled the air, acrid and suffocating. She could not simply watch them die. Her eyes darted to a walled terminal, its screen flickering with static from disrupted power. She knew these systems. Trade stations were built with redundancies, hidden paths, cultural protocols only a diplomat's child would study. Her hands flew across the interface. "Follow me," she called, voice cutting through the chaos. Marcus glanced over his shoulder. "What the hell are you doing?" "Saving them," she snapped. For the first time, her voice carried command. She led the cluster of civilians into the narrow maintenance shafts, weaving through conduits and gravity regulators, guiding them past sealed blast doors and into overlooked evacuation corridors. The passages hummed with power, vibrating against her skin, but she pressed on. Every instruction came sharp, decisive, and they obeyed her. When a syndicate patrol blocked their path, she raised her chin, her tone cold and precise. "These civilians are tagged for station evacuation priority. Harm them, and your employer loses trade rights on 3 major routes." The mercenaries faltered. Bluff or not, her bearing was iron. They let the group pass. By the time she rejoined Marcus at the barricade, dozens of civilians were safe in secure compartments. Her chest heaved with exhaustion, but her eyes burned bright. Marcus noticed. Amid the smoke and chaos, he gave her a fierce grin. "Didn't think you had that in you." She met his gaze, trembling but unyielding. "Neither did I." A final blast rocked the docks, the raiders retreating as station security reinforcements surged in. The air reeked of ozone and fear, but they had held. The market would remember this night. And Lysra knew. For the first time, she had not been a ghost, but a voice that carried. Chapter 6. A New Purpose Among the Stars. The aftermath carried a strange hush, as though the station itself was exhaling after hours of hell breath. Emergency strobes dimmed, leaving the docks bathed in pale light from the great viewport, where the debris of battle drifted like a broken constellation. The acrid tang of scorched circuitry still lingered, yet beneath it came the softer sense of cooked meals from reopened stalls, of life refusing to stop. Lysra stood at the edge of the promenade, her silver eyes reflecting the alien stars beyond. Around her, whispers spread. Alien merchants, human freighter crews, station workers, each retelling the same story. The human captain who fought like fire, and the outcast Eryna who led the helpless to safety. Her name, erased from her people's records, now carried through the station like a living current. Marcus joined her, his uniform scorched, one arm bound with a temporary brace. He leaned on the railing, grinning faintly despite the exhaustion in his eyes. "You realize you've got a fan club now?" She frowned, uncertain. "They speak of me?" "More than speak." He gestured behind them. A group of civilians, some human, some alien, bowed their heads in thanks as they passed, offering small tokens, a cloth scrap, a carved charm, a ration bar. Not as charity, but as tribute. Lysra's throat tightened. Once, offerings had been her birthright, demanded by tradition. Now, they were freely given for what she chose to do. "I thought myself hollow," she whispered, "without lineage, without voice. But today," she pressed a trembling hand to her chest, "I felt the universe answer when I called." Marcus's grin softened into something gentler. "That's the thing about humans," he said. "We don't wait for someone else to tell us who we are. We build it ourselves, piece by stubborn piece." She studied him, the roughness of his hands, the wear etched into his face, the warmth in his eyes. Where her people prized perfection, he wore his scars like history written on skin. And still he stood tall. "Your people, they survive through choice," she said slowly. "Through bonds, not blood." He nodded. "Families who you fight beside, who you feed, who you laugh with. Biology doesn't mean half as much as loyalty." His gaze lingered on her, quiet, certain. "If you'll have it, Lysra, you've got a place among us." Her breath caught. The void she had carried for so long, the silence of being erased, shifted, filled with something warm and defiant. She turned back to the stars, their light painting her skin like silver fire. For the first time, she imagined a future not defined by Eryna law, but by her own steps, her own choices. She looked back at him, voice steady. Then let my legacy begin here, not as the daughter they erase, but as one who chose her own name among humanity. Marcus extended his hand, calloused and certain. She placed hers in his without hesitation. Beyond the viewport, alien constellations shimmered, endless and uncharted. And for Lysera, they no longer promised exile. They promised purpose. The hum of the Aurora's engines vibrated through the deck, steady and alive, as if the ship itself was breathing with them. Beyond the viewport stretched a canvas of alien constellations, brilliant streaks of violet and gold, fractured moons glowing in the void. Below, the neon veins of a distant world pulsed like a heartbeat, its cities alive with languages Lysera once thought she would never belong to. She stood beside Marcus, their reflections caught in the glass, two figures against eternity. One cast out her people, one bearing the scars of species that refused to surrender. "I used to believe I was nothing," Lysera whispered, her silver eyes shimmering. "Erased, forgotten. But you taught me that purpose isn't given. It's chosen." Marcus turned, his calloused hand finding hers with quiet certainty. "Then choose with me. Out here in the dark, let's make our own legacy." The words settled between them like a vow. The faint pull of artificial gravity reminded her she was anchored, not drifting. For the first time, she smiled without sorrow. She leaned into him, forehead against his, and together they watched the stars blaze open before them. The universe, once descendants of exile, now felt like promise. Her voice, soft as starlight. "Let the Eryna erase my name. Humanity has given me a new one." And with that, the ship surged forward into the endless glow, carrying them, hand in hand, toward a future no council could ever take away.